not in good repair.
And if I might add, this is only one of the tools that we use in the maintenance department to make sure the schools are in good repair. Yes, sir.
Just, when you visit every one of the classrooms, do you ensure that they meet the requirement of the class size, et cetera? That we don't need any additional classrooms or any mods to classrooms
So,
that have not been updated yet?
so I'm going to give you a yes and no answer to that. So the FIT report and that FIT tool does not ask you about class size. So that's not done within this report. But within cabinet, we review that constantly for class size and the appropriateness of the classrooms. And that's taken into consideration during bond modernization planning as well.
In the report stuff, you had 127, now we have 32. Is that, the 32 is what we're reporting in December 1st? Or we report the 127?
So the FIT report is done traditionally late spring, late April, early May. So when they're doing this dashboard, they'll be reporting from last year. And then what I do for them is I tell them, this is what it looks like. I tell them that by each line item, what action was taken and the date that it was taken. So there's an update. You give, what it was at your last report and then what's been done in the meantime.
Thank you. So this is all the information for priority one, those three factors. So we will report standard met for priority one basic services. Priority two is the implementation of state academic standards. It is a bit more complicated than priority one. We are presented with a series of prompts, and we are asked to essentially rate our progress on that prompt using the ranking tool you see on the screen, a 1 through 5 scale. 1 being an exploration and research phase, and going through beginning, initial, and full implementation, then 5 being sustainability of full implementation. So I'll talk you through each of the prompts, and I'll let you know how we've ranked the different curricula in those in each of those prompts. I'll also say that this is by its nature self-reflective. It's based on conversations that we've had in educational services and in expanded cabinet. It's based on trainings that have happened over the summer. It's based on conversations and work that's happening at the school site. So there are a lot of different factors, and by its nature, it is somewhat subjective. So if you have any questions about why we've chosen a particular ranking, please feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to explain that to you. So the first of the prompts is rate the LEA's progress in providing professional learning for teaching to the recently adopted academic standards and/or curriculum frameworks identified below. And so you can see we have ELA, English language development, ELD standards, mathematics, next generation science standards, and history, social science. I want to just draw your attention to those words recently adopted because they are significant in this case. Of the curriculum frameworks listed there, the oldest is math, which was adopted in 2013. English came in 2014, and that goes for ELD as well, 2014. Next generation science standards and history social science were just adopted in 2016. So when we say recently adopted, we are talking about very recently in some cases. And so we've rated ourselves according to those standards and where we are in terms of providing those professional learning opportunities around the different standards that have been adopted over the last few years.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So the 3 means that in mathematics, we're a little farther along because we've got more time.
Absolutely. And you'll recall that we adopted a K-5 math curriculum this year. We've done a lot of training around that math curriculum. We've had a lot of conversations around math standards, and so we feel that we've come a long way in mathematics and will continue to grow.
And but these ratings are based on every grade. So it's not specific
That's true.
Okay, I mean, it strikes me as how useful is that necessarily when it's so broad, but
Mhm,
you
mhm.
already have, you got plans in place, I know, for implementing these, so I think it is helpful to some extent to see where you see that we are. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I will also say that, the state has not provided rubrics in terms of setting these scores. They give us a rating scale, which is certainly helpful, and we know what those ratings mean, but they haven't given us set criteria for how to rank those things, which is something I expect they may address in the future.
Right, and so for any district, whatever your vision happens to be for how much work you're gonna do to implement it, and how much development you're gonna give to your staff, do you expect to do all of this,
Mhm.
and now you're here, you give yourself a 3, but if you expect to do just a small amount, and you're halfway there, you might still give yourself a 3. But what's, more helpful as we learn, along the way is the various steps that we are taking, that we are setting a pretty high standard, and that it's, we want to have a fair amount of development.
I'll also say, as with the FIT report that we just heard about, this is helpful as an internal tool because it guides the work that we do and it guides the conversations that we have as a department and as a district. And so, we, in looking at these ratings, make decisions accordingly. Okay, the next prompt asks about the LEA's progress in making instructional materials that are aligned to the recently adopted academic standards or curriculum frameworks identified below available in all classrooms where the subject is taught. Again, that's a complicated request. I will say that history, social science, for example, the state just adopted instructional materials for that last week. So we're really not in a position to bring those materials into our classrooms right now. That's something that's going to be down the line for us.
Do we do those programs, or does the publisher of the book that we're going to use do the program for us?
That's a great question. So yes, certainly publishers are preparing materials and submitting them to the state of California for their blessing. And those go on a state-approved textbook list for each subject. And those are certainly lists that we consult when we talk about doing textbook adoptions. There are also means for districts to create their own curricula in these areas, which is a much more labor-intensive process and requires significant vetting and a lot of hard work and elbow grease on the part of the district and its teachers to create. So I guess the answer is both. All right. Next, for priority 2, rate the LEA's progress in implementing policies and programs to support staff in delivering instruction aligned to the recently adopted academic standards and frameworks identified below. I will call out again mathematics specifically because we have spent so much time working on that. We're beginning to have conversations around English language arts, and we've just got some instructional materials for some of our BLD classrooms. And I would also say, the discussions that we've had around the new report card at the elementary level have been productive in supporting staff in implementing those standards to the fullest possible extent. So progress is being made here as well. This last, well, there's one more actually after this, but this is dealing more with frameworks and standards that have been in place for a longer period of time. And so you can see our ratings for CTE, health, physical education, visual performing arts, and world language are a little bit higher because these are standard frameworks that have been in place in many cases for over 10 years. That being said, there are also those that are next up for review and replacement. So more to come on that. The last piece here asks us during the 2015-16 school year to rate the local educational agency's success in engaging in the following activities with teachers and school administrators: identifying the professional learning needs of groups of teachers or the staff as a whole, identifying the professional learning needs of individual teachers, and providing support for teachers on the standards they have not yet mastered. And I'll just say that, we, as an educational services department in collaboration with the human resources department, try to provide professional development opportunities that are meaningful to our teachers and staff members. We give them options during the summer. We try to make the best use of our professional development days during the school year. And I think we feel very strongly that we're doing a good job at addressing these activities as they're described. So, are there any other questions about priority 2? So we will also report for priority 2 standard met. Priority 3 deals with parent engagement, and we collect information for this indicator in 2 ways. One is through our annual stakeholder survey that we use to develop our LCAP, and the other is slightly more anecdotally through things like participation in our school site council, DAC, DLAC meetings, PTA, things of that nature. And as I mentioned, this information is part of the way that we develop our LCAP. So just some highlights from the survey. Parents, guardians indicated on the survey on a series of questions how much they participated in certain school programs. And you can see that we have fairly high ratings on several fronts. 55% agreeing or strongly agreeing that we're keeping families informed about community resources. 72% say that they're informed about events and activities, that we're using a variety of strategies to communicate with families, that we're communicating with them in their native language. So I think that we're doing an excellent job in reaching our families, and we continue to learn from these survey results, as I mentioned, to guide our work moving forward. And so sorry, yes?
Do you have a number of how many parents or families actually responded to the survey?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look at the results. I can get you that number.
Do we develop any classes because of the feedback we're getting from the parents and that, something they need help in?
Certainly, we provide a lot of learning opportunities for our parents. This year already, we've done a series of events around our new math curriculum, around iReady, around various other needs and areas, not of confusion, but that are new to parents and that we want to sort of build some capacity around to try to make sure that they have the information they need to best support their kids.
Have we developed any, adult education programs for the parents?
I'm not so well versed in our adult education offerings, so maybe I should yield to the superintendent.
We have looked at those areas, and we're happy to come back with you at a separate time to talk about that. We're looking at all opportunities for adult ed. I know that Sarah Rialma is working with Bob Westgate right now to coordinate some offerings for our families, some of them in citizenship classes and English classes based on what we've heard from our families and Amber Lane's work through WeChat and a number of other measures that we use to gather information from our families. Our WeChat numbers, for example, have almost tripled of our families using WeChat, and Amber often asks, what types of classes would you like to have offered? What type of programs would you like to have offered? So we're always seeking that information, but we are looking at that, but I'll be happy to bring that back at a separate time when we're prepared to address that.
Super. So priority 3, we will also report standard met. The last of the priorities is priority 6, school climate, and it focuses obviously on school climate, school safety, students' feelings of connectedness to school. This again is information that we draw from our annual LCAP survey and use to make decisions about initiatives related to climate and safety on our campuses. So again, some highlights. This time I have some responses from students as well as parents. And you can see that the vast majority of our students say that they feel safe, that our schools are being proactive about anti-bullying efforts. Parents feel that the school is safe, that schools are doing work to avoid those bullying incidents. And a few more numbers here. Students say that they receive encouragement from their teachers and staff members at school. They feel respected by both teachers and staff members. So for standard 6, priority 6 rather, we will also report standard met. So of the 4 priorities that I listed, we have collected the information and I have reported it to you, and we will upload it to the school dashboard at the earliest convenience. Yes.
What do you think the state's going to do with the information?
So this information will be added to our dashboard. So any stakeholder who goes on the state website and looks at Temple City's dashboard, the district dashboard, will see our local indicators. And that will be part of the full picture that they get for our district. So they'll be able to see state indicators that I talked to you about last spring right next to these local indicators.
So a parent can compare the different schools?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Compare the districts.
Yeah, so in the case of local indicators, as I said, there are no school numbers for local indicators. So you would be looking at a district next to another district possibly. Those state indicators are more, slightly more complicated. Individual schools get scores on that as well. Super.
Any other questions? Well, Ethan, thank you very much. It's
Thank you.
always informative, and it's interesting to hear your part of the world. There's a lot going on with that, and it's just going to grow, I imagine.
Keeps us on our toes, for sure.
It sounds like it does.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to item number 19, our Temple High School new school and locker building modernization project review. That was almost a tongue twister.
I need it unlocked, so I'm waiting for Emerald. But since there are items on tonight's agenda that are related to the project, we thought it'd be a good idea just to do a quick review of the scope of the project. We did one actually a year ago. Last November, we did a full presentation on the project, so we're just going to do a quick review.
Yeah. Do not have this password certificate.
Is this the Emerald Rules password?
Standard password.
If it has Arcadia in it.
Okay, so scope of work is demolition of the existing pool, construction of a new 33 meter by 25 yard pool, which has 13 lanes, modernization of building 800, which is the locker room, including expanded lockers and concessions, the new athletic field, includes dugouts, bullpens, and batting cages. The new softball field also includes dugouts, bullpens, and batting cages. So the project is scheduled to begin on the 27th of this month. The athletic field, the north field, and the construction and demolition of the existing pool will commence first. The locker room modernization will begin summer 2018, and the project is scheduled to be completed summer of 2019.
What's gonna be done with the locker rooms? I thought we did something already. With the lockers and stuff repainted or the floors redone and stuff?
Right,
Yeah,
but in order,
Is this in addition to that?
it was a get by.
Kind of little cleanup.
right.
Okay.
So we're going to be, I don't know if you recall, there's probably 50, 60 showers in like the boys' locker room, which is a lot of room that they don't use. We're taking out all of the showers. They don't meet ADA requirements anyway. So we're putting in just the amount of showers that was requested by the site. I believe it was 6 each. The rest of the space is going to be used to expand the locker rooms for additional lockers. So they'll just have a lot more space in there. They'll have, and new restrooms. All the restrooms are going to be upgraded.
Are we trying to utilize the lockers we still have, or are we getting new lockers?
We're looking at new lockers, because I was able to locate the lockers I used when I was there,
Have the KP on it still?
so. When I carved my initials. They just,
How about you, Mr. Nolenberg, your locker's still there?
I think it was a free-for-all, you just took any empty locker. There was a towel cage in the middle of the locker room.
The towel cage is being demoed.
We're gonna provide towels, Jake, or not?
That I don't.
It's really, other than the students utilizing the pool, both the water pool and the swim teams, there isn't a lot of use for the lockers it's in regards to towel storage. So, and we wouldn't necessarily need that. It's a lot of space. The other thing is that we've worked with Dr. Lashir and Coach Lawrence, as well as the other coaches, and toured the locker rooms numerous times with Daniel and his team, as well as the architects, to ensure that we're maximizing the space with minimal amount of construction to maximize the dollars as well.
Okay, so this is just a brief overview of the space. The north field where the interim housing was, that is going to be replaced by a multi-use athletic field. The softball field will be replaced, and the new pool in building 800 is going to be modernized. This is a layout of the floor plan of the locker room. It's essentially the same. Bathrooms have been expanded because they need to be bigger to meet ADA requirements. You'll see there's a lot more lockers than there used to be. That's because we're taking over all the shower space and expanding all the locker areas. And then these are some renderings that we shared a year ago. This is the front of the aquatic center, which would be the north side of the teacher's parking lot. Yes.
Are the lockers gonna be different sizes?
Yes. They're going to be bigger.
Is there gonna be a mixture of like for the teams or that, they get maybe a bigger locker, if you're a member of the team?
The team rooms are not getting new lockers because those were just redone, so it's mainly the PE lockers.
Okay, the general population.
Where's the bike rack going?
Right, we don't have a permanent location yet, but for now the bike racks are going on where the center tennis courts are, just to the west of those. Right next to the Industrial Arts building. In between the portables and the tennis courts. There's an area that has about 4 or 5 parking stalls. So I believe they're going to go there temporarily.
Can I ask a locker question? As far as gender equity and how many lockers we will have for girls and we'll have for boys, we looked at what our needs are, and are we made an effort to ensure that there's sufficient locker space for both.
We've reviewed that many times.
Thank you. That's why we pay you guys a big bucks.
You seem to emphasize many.
I've given him several articles with pictures and stuff too.
And this is just another aerial shot that shows the new pool equipment building and the new electrical and trash enclosure. That is in the same north side of this staff parking lot.
The pool will be what, 1450?
7-3.
Does it meet the requirements for the pool too?
I'm sorry?
Does it meet the requirements?
Yes, it's a CIF regulation pool. And this is just the last flyover of the top of the pool.
The general one, as I recall, we have two general plans for the school. I don't know if they're both been approved or not. One of them was approved, then we had a $20,000 secondary master plan. Is this compatible with our master plans?
Yeah, this is in line with the master plan, correct?
The first,
The revised master plan. Any other questions?
So the lockers, when will the locker rooms be complete or usable by the students?
Fall of 2018.
Okay. So they'll be demolished at the end of the school year. By the beginning of the next school year, they'll be,
Because there's not a whole bunch of construction with the locker room area. It's mainly the bathrooms.
yeah.
We're basically going to be swapping out lockers.
Okay.
They're on concrete bases right now, so we would just be taking those out, putting new lockers in. The bathrooms will require a bit more work, but it's not a ton of work.
So there won't have to be an interim period where other spaces are being used or lockers or somewhere else. But the pool, I know we had an agreement to use the Rosemead pool, was it?
Correct.
Yes.
Marianne's been working with Carrie Smith to make sure we're covered for all of these.
Sure, okay.
Going back to-
The pool will not be used, so the pool demolition will start shortly. If we, I know we're talking about things later on the agenda.
Yes.
Pool demolition will be used shortly, so it wouldn't be usable for the rest of this year.
Correct.
the lockers themselves, are these standard lockers or are these little trays that you consider a locker?
We're moving away from, you're talking about the baskets.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're moving away from the basket system and going to just standard double stacked lockers.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. It'll be exciting to watch the progress of all this. Maybe have our board meeting on the pool deck, you know?
Or in the locker room.
Yeah, why not?
In the locker.
Have a water polo board meeting type thing, you know?
Can we all jump in the pool together?
Why not? Teamwork, right?
That you need the five of you, correct?
Well, yes.
Alrighty. Pretty much fun, actually. We'll move on to our discussion action portion of the agenda. These are items that may require discussion, but upon which the board is expected to take action during tonight's meeting. I will move that we approve, or we open, a public hearing to discuss revised salary schedules and language changes for the July 1, 2016 through June 30, 2019 collective bargaining agreement with Temple City Education Association pursuant to AB 1200.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Pomeroy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. We're now in open hearing. Are there any comments concerning the agreements?
This is on number 28.
This is 20A, yes.
And I have a couple of quick questions.
Huh?
I got a couple of questions. Have we already agreed that the probationary period will be just 2 years instead of 3?
Yeah, so the probationary period has been 2 years.
Has,
Yeah, that's ed code.
okay. So we're following the head code
Mhm.
for most of these rules here? I guess I lost
I'm
it.
not, where did you get 3 years? Remember?
No, I thought the state was already on for 3 years.
There's talk, but nothing has been determined at this point.
Do we have to amend our thing then? We have to
If
do
the law should change, then we would amend this.
And then I guess confused. You got these changes to the contract, but you got them in 3 or 4 different places. Is it because, I don't know, why is it because we have?
Wherever there was a change, if it's in different articles, we had to represent it in each of the articles so that the contract is consistent. I tried this year to make sure, I don't think I've ever given it to you in this format before, but I really wanted to put it in a format so you could see which articles are actually being affected with the change in language. So bold print is new language and anything struck through is language that's new.
Yeah, I noticed the change that you did, I thought was very effective. It was very helpful to understand, what was and now what is. So, thank you. This is an open hearing, anyone can comment, make statements about this if you wish. This is for the public and us. If there's any more questions? I move to close the public hearing, represented in item 20A.
Second.
Second by Mr. Milberg, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Moving on to item 20C, I'll move to approve the revised salary schedules and language changes for the July 1, 2016 through June 30, 2019 collective bargaining agreements with Temple City Education Association pursuant to AB 1200.
Second.
Second by Mr. Millenberg. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Item 21A, I will move to approve the opening of a public hearing to discuss revised salary schedules and language changes for the July 1, 2015 through June 30, 2018 collective bargaining agreement with California School Employees Association, Chapter 105, pursuant to AB 1200. Second by Mr. Nolenberg. We're now in open public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Now, we're in open public hearing.
I have a question.
What?
So the 3-year period for this particular contract is slightly different. It's July 2015 through June 2018.
Yeah, so it's the open contract, so it's every 3 years the complete contract is open. And so I don't know why it's different, but for CSEA 105, it is a year either behind or ahead when you go. So I couldn't tell you why that is.
So next year, the approach will be
Next year,
different. There will
the
be
entire
more.
contract will be open for.
Again, this is an open hearing for public. Any questions by board members or public?
I'll say something else.
Mr. Conley?
I especially want to thank Dr. Kuna, but also all the negotiators on every side for working through this. And I've appreciated the last couple of years that the process has concluded early in the school year, and I know that was a concerted effort. But I especially want to thank just with negotiators on both sides for the positive process. And, you know, I hope that our employees feel that, you know, we value them highly, as expressed by these contracts, not only by the contracts, but as expressed by the contracts.
Any comments? All right, I will move to approve closing of the public hearing to discuss the revised salary schedules
Second.
as listed in 21A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, moving on to 21C. I'll move to approve the revised salary schedules and language changes for the July 1, 2015 through June 30, 2018 collective bargaining agreement with California School Employee Association, chapter, listed as 105, oh, okay, 105, pursuant to AB 1200.
Second.
Second by, Mr. Poole. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay. 22A, I'll move to approve the opening of a public hearing to discuss revised salary schedules and language changes for the July 1, 2016 through June 30, 2019 collective bargaining agreement with the California School Employees Association, Chapter 823, pursuant to AB 1200.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nollenberg. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. We're now in public hearing. Is there anyone here from A2? Let's see. Oh. Okay, again, this is a public hearing, open to the public for comments.
On the second page, the one where you have all the back of the first, of the staff report. At the bottom, you crossed out 6583 and put 8166. Is there a reason why you put the 8166? Because it's different than some of the other contracts.
So, CSA 23 has a cash in lieu agreement for health and welfare benefits. So this is the change based on the fact that we were going to increase the amount of the health and welfare benefit contribution. So that 8166 is in line with the change that we're offering to the employees, and also with them phasing out their pooling by the end of next year.
But the amount, the $9,000 benefit is consistent with all the
Yes.
employees
Yes.
in each contract. So that particular number, Mr. Nollenberg, is a
Yeah, I see that.
calculation of,
But the other one, the 8166 is the one that concerns me, because it's different from the other.
no, I think what he's saying is that this is the only contract that has that particular type of thing.
Yeah.
So how does that work then? So that's the amount that goes to,
So basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, as they're phasing out their pooling, it used to be a certain amount that go to pooling, and they could use a cash in lieu for the remaining amount. And what they're saying at this point is now they can do cash in lieu up to the 8166 amount of the 9,000. The remainder will go into the pool. And then next year, as the pool phases out, then they will be able to do cash in lieu for the entire amount.
So they just increase their cash in. I don't know if this makes a difference, I saw this just above here, where it says Article 8, it refers to CSEA number 105. Words. Article 8, Section 2A, effective whatever.
No, that is a typo. It should be 823. Good catch.
I think I looked over this when I was in my son's taekwondo class, I didn't catch it then, so I'm sorry.
That's right.
I was like, oh, you did that.
You can see there's a lot of different language changes. So.
Yeah, there is, and again, I appreciate the way you did that. For me, as a simple guy, it made it much easier for me to understand what you're doing and what was said and what's effective now. So, but I'm not a lawyer by any means, so that just kind of confuses me sometimes. Okay, any questions? Again, this is a public hearing for the public also. Alrighty, I will approve closing of the public hearing described under 22A.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Pomeroy. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, I will move to approve the revised salary schedules and language changes for the July 1, 2016 through the June 30, 2019 collective bargaining agreement with the California School Employees Association, Chapter 823, pursuant to AB 1200.
Second.
Should we do it with, subject to that one small amendment?
Correct.
That one,
Yeah, I'll be changing.
As noted with the correction.
Mr. Nolan, second.
Mr. Nolberg seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Okay. So, item 23A. Will approve opening of a public hearing of salaries schedule adjustments with certificated and classified management employees pursuant to AB 1200.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Pomeroy. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. We're now in public hearing.
So, does this then cover all of our employees not covered by those three contracts with the exception of our superintendent?
Yes, so everybody, including the confidential employees.
And so the changes to health and welfare benefits and the percentage change to salary is consistent across those three contracts and this item also.
Any questions? Again, this is a public hearing. All right. I will move to approve the closing of public hearing of salary schedule adjustments with the certificated and classified management employees pursuant to AB 1200.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nolan. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. I'll move to approve the salary schedule adjustments as listed in 23A.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nolenberg. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. I need a drink after that one. Okay, moving on to item 24. I'll move to approve the declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Nolenberg. So I believe, Dr. Kuna, this is something that we do annually.
Yeah, so this is an annual piece that we have to send to CPC to be able to qualify teachers who have not completed basically the process of their credential. Normally, it's not something that we would use. However, this year, we actually will have a need for this with the, not for permanent placement of employees, but with the number of extended leaves we have for maternity. We do have a need to get some of our substitute teachers to be able to perform in the classroom longer than the 30 or 20 day required or allowance that they're given under their current substitute permit. So this allows us to then place them in the classroom for an extended period of time if they meet certain criteria.
Any questions or comments? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve. Is there a vote?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Okay. Item 25. I will move to approve the budget adjustments to reflect our 2% salary increase as well as an increase in the district's contribution for health and welfare to $9,000 per year.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Nolenberg. Any questions concerning this item? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Alrighty, item 26. I'll move to approve the agreement with Fast Track Construction Corporation for the Temple City High School Phase 1B project. Second by Mr. Nolenberg. Any questions concerning this? Ms. Campbell, if you would just kind of do a run over on this?
So on November 2nd of this year, we received 3 sealed bids from pre-qualified contractors for this project. Fast Track Construction Corporation did have the lowest responsible and responsive bid. We did do a post-bid interview with them also. I don't know if I've ever run down what that is, but we take out the plans, we have a meeting with the contractor, the project manager, the estimator. We make sure that they have everything included in their bid, because we'd rather know that up front than in the middle of the project and start fighting about it. So we give them an opportunity to say, well, you know what, we need to pull our bid because it's not complete. So we go through that whole thing with them. There's actual interview questions that we ask, and we make them sign an initial and become a part of the contract. So they can never come back and say, we told you we didn't have that, or whatever the case may be.
And these 3 companies listed here that provided bids, they specialize in pools and.
What we did is we didn't use a general contractor that specializes in pools, but we had them list a subcontractor that's pre-qualified to build the pool. So they had to go through the same pre-qualification process that the general contractors do in order to be able to bid the project.
Okay. And are you comfortable with the subcontractor?
Yes.
Have you worked with them before?
Years ago I did. But the inspector who is on tonight's agenda, he just came off of a couple projects with them, and they were pretty successful, so.
Any other questions? All in favor to approve?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Ready? I will move to, item 27, I will move to approve the agreement with TCUSD Construction Management for the construction management services for the Temple City High School Phase 1B project. Second by Mr. Nolenberg. All right, so we've been using TCUSD for our entire experience with Measure S, and so far everything's been okay. No, I've heard nothing but great things. I mean, I'm sure, Ms. Perini and the district staff are very thankful to have your expertise. Otherwise, they'd have to be the experts at this. Not that you aren't, but, I'm sure you're a little better, Daniel.
We tortured him occasionally.
No more locker room stuff, right? Okay, any comments or concerns concerning TCUSD continuing with their construction management? All in favor to approve?
Aye.
5-0. Alrighty. Moving on to item 28, I will move to approve the agreement with Nolan Construction Services for the DSA inspection services for the Temple City High School Phase 1B project.
Second?
Seconded by Mr. Pomeroy. Mr. Rodriguez, if you.
So this particular inspector, his name is Ken Bird. Coincidentally, the last 3 projects he's done have been pools. One of them being the Arcadia High School pool. Another one is Troy High School in Fullerton and Sunny Hills High School in Fullerton. So he knows pools.
Would he also be inspecting the athletic fields?
Yes, he would be the project
The whole
inspector
thing,
for
the whole
the entire project. Unless any special inspections.
And I'm assuming that he has worked with groundskeepers and athletic field
Yes,
groomers and all that?
yes.
What's the difference between the DSA inspected items and the one that's coming up, the 29, number 29?
It's,
Which is for the whole thing.
it's different certifications. This is an inspector that's responsible for the inspection, not necessarily doing the actual inspections of certain items. DSA will give you a list of items that require inspection. And next to that item, it'll say whether the project inspector can inspect it or if it needs to be a special inspector. Like welding, whenever there's any welding, you have to have a certified welding inspector. And the project inspector actually oversees that welding inspector. They have to turn in their own set of forms, their own paperwork for the project to certify it. So, same with concrete testing, trench backfilling and compaction, those need to be special inspections.
And the DSA contractor doesn't have those certifications,
Not that they don't, but they're not allowed by DSA to do that.
conflict of interest.
I think they think it's just, they would just kind of be a blanket responsible for the entire project, and it's better when there's a couple more eyes on every activity.
So basically, we're required by law to have two different types of
Yes.
inspectors.
Absolutely.
And in both of these cases, and in the other two, we already approved the amount of the contract is within what had been budgeted.
Yes. So the project inspector and special inspection has been the same for every project. So every project, there's always a project inspector and there's always a special inspector. Modernizations, there's a lot less special inspection because you're not doing a whole bunch of concrete, you're not doing, rebar, that kind of thing, so. This one is a little bit different because there's a lot of rebar in the pool and the deck.
Any other questions? All in favor to approve?
Aye.
5-0. All right, moving on to item 29. I'll move to approve the agreement with Lino and Moore for the special inspection services for the Temple City High School Phase 1B project.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gould. Any questions concerning item 29? I think Ms. Rodriguez touched on it.
And we've worked with them already.
Yes.
And the contracts here that we're approving were prepared by our attorney.
Yes, that's correct.
All in favor for approval?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Okay, item 30. I'll move to approve the school site council composition waiver for the Dr. Doug Sears Learning Center.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Pomeroy. Yes,
Oh,
Dr. Kistner, if you would.
Basically, it's a small school, and so it has a small makeup, and so the state recognizes that those opportunities exist for schools, and that they still want them to have meaningful engagement with community and parents. So this is one way to not make it an onerous task when schools, typically the composition at minimum is 12 members, and that would be hard.
And I believe it indicates that as far as staff, maybe at other sites, at larger schools, there would be more representation from classified staff. Here, the composition could be majority teachers if that's what works out. Is that-
Typically on a school site, oh, I'm sorry. Typically, with the school site council, you do have a majority of teachers that are part of the council. And parents and community members are about half of a school site council typically. And then other staff could be, other staff, administrators, classified, from the different from the different bargaining units. So it is typically a majority of teachers, and they ask that we keep it the same way.
Makes sense.
All in favor to approve?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, I'll move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the University of Laverne and Temple City Unified School District.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Pomeroy.
So the terms that we had discussed before when the Laverne folks came to visit, this is just to memorialize it in writing.
Oh, this is actually from
That was a Zeus.
you.
Oh, I'm
Specific, this
sorry.
is now we're entering,
We're a whole
we
different-
would like to
Yeah.
enter
This is
into
an entirely
agreement
different
with
university. Yeah.
This was,
We
this
have
was the
those.
university that our CBO attended.
Yes.
Because she failed.
Just a general question, I forgot where it was in the thing. Is there a distinction between a university and a college? Is there because it appears somewhere in one of these different forms where somebody makes reference to a university and not a college/university.
Are you talking about like a city college versus a?
I don't know, that's my question, is there a difference between a college and a university? I know Cal Poly was a college and then it became a university and it reissued the graduation certificates.
They have different iterations over time. I most certainly can look up the definitions to make sure that I am very specific, but I think one of the things that we're interested in is whether, what kind of degrees can be delivered at the end of matriculation within the organization. And so both APU and University of Laverne have opportunities for 4-year degrees for undergraduates and then all the way to doctorate level degrees, depending on where students would like to go past their undergraduate. But we are very happy that we have opportunities with some prestigious universities and colleges within the area, including our community colleges, which typically offer 2-year associate's degrees, so that we can, continue our great, just the good job that we do in doing and continuing on with what we do here in Temple City. And the fact that students have the opportunity, if we meet the requirements, and we do, have a scholarship and money that they can also attend school. That's a huge bonus, and we're very excited to enter into this agreement if the board so chooses.
According to Google, Mr. Norbert, the difference is only international. For college and universities, synonymous here in the States. So international colleges are high schools, or are high schools, and then the universities are colleges.
Oh, they're just the student from Australia we're talking
Yes.
about.
Right, college.
Yes.
One other piece I'd like to add is this is really a credit to Sarah Fielma. If you'll recall, when we talked about entering into an agreement with the Zeus Pacific University, Sarah had noted that she had seen a couple of school districts had entered into agreements with Laverne, and she said, I'm going to pursue them. And so they were, actually had planned on being here this evening, but because of a conflict that came at the last minute, they were not able to attend, but would like to come and address the board at a later time if you so choose.
Are there any other colleges or universities that are doing the same sort of thing, and not interested in this?
If we see them, we are going to ask them. If you see them, you let us know.
Usually they're in the paper, because somebody sent a conflict.
Okay, all in favor to approve?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Okay. Moving on to our consent agenda, which are routine items approved by one motion and one vote, unless a member of the board or audience requests that any item be reviewed and voted upon separately. Are there any such requests? You want to remove items?
So I want a clarification.
Okay.
So, you don't have a motion second?
Well, I will move to approve the consent agenda.
I will second that.
Seconded by Mr. Pomeroy. Questions?
Yeah, on 32, I guess, the minutes. You have my comments as board member comments. Those are really requests for discussion and agenda items to be added instead of comments. Okay? And then also, under the contracts themselves, we have a couple of them that I guess, I don't know, I just don't understand the accounting assistants are gonna be given to the high school, or what? Why are we hiring accounting temps to go to assist in the food preparation? Food portion of it is open, when the food portion is open. It's TC 167412.
So, I'm sorry.
It's on page 3, page 1 of 3.
So it's the accounting position within the food services department. It's not meaning that they be in food service at a site. They won't be serving food, it's the accounting position within the food services department.
So it's a new employee or a new job?
No, it's an existing job. We have someone on an extended leave.
Okay, so we're gonna fill it with an extended person. And then the ones where you have general fund and special education, that's because we don't have enough money under special education to support.
So you may recall that the general fund is where the majority of our budget sits. Special education is within the general fund. So it's just specifying that it's the general fund and then which department.
All in favor to approve?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Okay, any closing board member comments?
I wanted to also thank Mr. Martin for his veteran status.
Oh, you're very welcome, Mr. Gold, very happy. Very happy to do that.
I'm glad you thought about it. How active it was.
I was back in the day where I could run 50 miles before breakfast.
Why?
I always ask myself the same thing, why did I do this? But, you know, I was stoked at the time. Now I just like, President's over.
I got one
Thank you.
addition.
Yes.
One additional comment. The School Board Foundation awarded to each of the school sites $2,500, which was presented, I guess, at the principals meeting on Tuesday. And so the $2,500 is at the discretion, as I understand, at the discretion of the principals to decide what projects they want to do at their school site, which is nice for the school foundation.
I need my truck detailed. Okay, if there are no other comments, I will move to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second?
Second by Mr. Pomeroy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Outstanding job, Mr. President. Outstanding job, Mr. Clerk. Here this sometimes have early, that's right. Mr. Kim, outstanding job.
Thank you for bringing Steve.
Yeah, no, the ASB presentation, I was talking about. Yeah, there we go. We're past that, so I think we're becoming a very engaging conversation. So we talk about
Oh, because Crispin, never seen that like this before. Yeah.
Years ago, somebody did
No, yeah, I've never, I mean, I just, I mean, it's
New tonight. So when you take a selfie,
Talk about the why it is such a great came up with me.
look at us, it's I was quite small and like when we're in this conversation, so I find that shocking.
I'll throw that, remember I know, it's that, right, the shortest percentage.
I usually get switched.
I think I think the one that's got a little.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will move to reconvene the open session. Second by Mr. Pomeroy. All in favor? Aye. 5-0. Reconvene this. Tonight's meeting is being digitally recorded. And Mr. Gould, if you would please lead us in tonight's pledge of allegiance.
Stand for the flag. Begin.
Okay, this evening, the Board of Education took no actions in closed session. Tonight, we have a special recognition and presentation by our 2017 USA Water Polo Junior Olympic All-American. It is Mr. Yoon from, if you would please introduce everybody.
You want me to speak?
Please.
You know, I'm not much of a public speaker, so I did down here, so it's only one page long. I just had a print out last time because my age is catching up and I'm in denial. Good evening, and Ms. Perrini and all Temple City School District board members. Thank you for inviting us to this board meeting tonight. My name is Joshua Yoon. I'm the president of Temple City High School Ramnada Booster Club. And I'm also a father of Nicholas Yoon, who's sitting down there with other honorees here. Each year, USA Water Polo Association hosts the one and only National Water Polo Tournament called Junior Olympic at around end of July for both boys and girls. This event is by the far biggest and highly anticipated event for the whole of the country. And aside from California, which is a leading state in water polo, we get players from all over the country. And having said that, water polo is one of the fastest growing prep sports in the United States. So players and participating teams are divided by their age brackets, which goes from 10 under, 12 under, 14, 16, and 18. And brings about between 500 to 1,000 kids athletics per age bracket. So after 4 days of a highly competitive games, the USA Water Polo Association announced about 25 best athletics in per age brackets, which is basically a coach's poll, and we named them as a JO All-American teams. Now, I want to actually take this time to speak briefly about where we are at the Temple City High School. Unlike our highly achieved academic achievements, we're not so much of success in sports teams. In fact, there is only 2 teams at Temple City High School that has any sort of a winning records. One is girls tennis, another one is water polo for boys and girls. Because tennis is so much of individual sports, that makes water polo the only team sports in Temple City High School with the winning records. So last 4 years, both boys and girls made it to the CIF, with the girls taking the second place 2 years ago. This year, our boys, for the first time, made it to the semifinal last week. And that is, to me, is absolute greatest achievement I've seen for the last 6 years. I'm so excited. Thing is, I asked myself and to the families of water polo, why we don't have that much success in terms of sports teams. And some told me jokingly, because we have a lot of Asian in the community, okay? Which I strongly deny. To me, the reason why Campus City is not so much success in certain sports is not because we're Asians or different ethnicity or race. It's because a lot of our kids in the grade level are not really introduced to the sports early on. When the kids join the sports by 9th grader, it's too late. Some of our kids sitting over here started playing water polo at the age of 8, 9, and 10. That's the only way we can compete at high level with the other teams like Huntington Beach or Newport Beach. It's very simple as that. In fact, one of the disappointing fact that I want to mention right now is that both Miles and Jay, they are the 7th grader of middle school, and that's it. There is no one under them that can really play at a high level after the 7th grade. That's because we don't really have that kind of program that help our elementary kids introducing to water polo and also many various other sports as well. So that is something that it's my wish list and the bucket list as well. And also to those of you who's not really familiar with the water polo sports, it's a team sport played by 7 players with the 6 field players, 1 goalie. And the idea is to score as many scores you want to win the game. And we played a pool that's about 30 to 60 foot wide with about 60 to 90 feet, 90 feet length. Usually we played about between 6 to 14 feet deep water. So in water polo, there is no rest. You have to constantly egg beating, we call it egg beating, to stay afloat and play all the time. And in fact, there was an article that I read said that water polo is considered to be one of the most difficult sports in Olympic and period, because it's pure testimony of endurance, strength, skills, endurance, stamina, endurance. You have to swim all the time, whether you're on offense or defense. Anyway, so without much ado, I would like to introduce Peter Chwin. He's a sophomore at Temple City High School. You understand that? And Nicholas Smith, 8th grader at Oak Middle School. And Miles Chen and James Covers, both 7th grade at Oak Middle School, for winning the 2017 JO All-American Award. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Yin and I have known each other for a long time, and thank you for the leadership and involvement you've had in Ramrodders. I think it's made a tremendous difference as we continue to grow our programs for our scholar athletes. We have a new gift. First time at this board meeting, we have pop sockets for you. Yeah. For your parents. To attach to your cell phones as a remembrance of your time here and how proud we are of you. So thank you so much, and thank you for being here. Thank you guys, appreciate it. No, you have to say the thing. We're down about 9. Yes, President Martin, they might have a couple comments and then they'll go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Yu, I just want to say thank you for the time that you put into the organization, and all the parents. These extracurricular activities just wouldn't be as successful without moms and dads.
Yeah.
You make it work. You interact with the students and push them and love them and provide the logistics that they need to be successful, because if they didn't have the logistics, water, food, sometimes we have these kids out for a whole day and feeding, like we're one of band boosters. We're feeding 200 some odd kids twice a day, and hydrating them, it takes a lot of logistics. And it's the parents that provide the logistics and are there all day long until late hours of nights, working. So I understand, and I'm very thankful for what you do, because I know the hard work that's involved. And I hope the students, that you appreciate what your moms and dad are doing for you, because they're the reason why you're successful. You work hard. What you produce athletically comes within you, but their parents are providing you the tool and the means to get there. So moms and dads, congratulations. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Yeah, I like the water polo's been kind of a close with me and stuff. As far as our best friends that we've been for years and stuff. The kids have always been involved with swimming and water polo and stuff. And she's always bragging about the kids, doing this or doing that stuff. And we talked to them 2 weeks ago. And the kids didn't quite make CIF. And I said, well, our kids are still in. And I'm very proud to say that. And for the last week, last Friday, I was down at the pizza cart. And there was a bunch of kids over there, and it looked like water polo kids. And I know I happened to notice it was the TV Play Paradise. That you play and stuff.
Peninsula?
Semifinals.
Oh, the Peninsula
The
team.
Peninsula, yeah. And so I went and talked to the coach and stuff. You guys played water. Who'd you just play and stuff? And they said, oh, Temple City. And I said, well, how'd you do? I said, went in overtime and we lost and stuff. We've got a damn good team. I said, school board. So, and I have the bragging rights now tomorrow when I go with my friends to say, we have to make the Junior Olympics. And so, thank you for, especially the parents and stuff, thank you for all your work and help with the kids, and congratulations to the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. You may stay and enjoy the rest of our meeting, or you may go.
If you excuse us, we leave. Thank you. Most welcome.
Okay, moving on. Do we have any public comments on agendized or non-agendized items on tonight's agenda? Hearing no public comments, we'll move on to district updates, business services.
Good evening. I'll give you a quick update on the facility bond. So Temple City High School Phase 1A, the new two-story classroom. That we're just addressing punch list items. We're very close to completing those. Temple City High School Phase 1B, which Daniel will be discussing with you and reviewing in a few minutes, is the next project there, which is the new pool, locker room modernization and the field renovations. The project has been bid and we'll be bringing that contract to you shortly. Longton Elementary School modernization, the admin and 4 classrooms upstairs will be ready to occupy next week, which is approximately 4 weeks ahead of schedule. The abatement and demolition will begin on the next phase the week after Thanksgiving. Cloverleaf's modernization and La Rosa's modernization phase 2. The architect has begun the construction documentation phase, and the plans will be submitted to DSA, were submitted to DSA on November 3rd. You'll recall that Prop 39, we actually had a chance to go for a little bit of extra funding, so the total now is up to $1.3 million. We used projects that had already been completed with the bond to be able to receive those funds, so those will be unrestricted to be used as the district wishes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving us this paper with everything spelled out. It's one thing to listen to what you're saying, and we feel like, contractors, by the time you're done, but then the next morning, I kind of wish I'd written down some stuff. So this is very helpful. Okay, educational services.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few things that I'd like to share. We recently just completed events called Epic Fails for Code to the Future for our elementary schools. Those were attended by several parents, and the parents and community members were able to see what is going on with our coding and technology at the elementary level. Teachers are training this week and early next week for the next round of the athletic building, which will include robotics for those students K through 6 that are participating in the program. Also wanted to let you know that we had a DLAP meeting this Monday, where we invited our parents that are English language support in to help us with information and guiding our practices and informing them about the LCAP. Coming up this week, this Saturday, you have time in your schedule. Longden will be competing in the FLL robotics tournament at La Cunada High School. Round 1 starts at 9 o'clock, but if you're not an early riser and want to come a little later, round 2 is at 12:30, and round 3 is at 1:30, and Longden has 2 teams. I also just wanted to share that we also have a CTE, we have another parent meeting concerning CTE and CTE pathways. We did reschedule that, it was designed to be earlier. It's now going to be November 30th, 6:30 to 7:30 at the high school. So we encourage you to come, as well as some of our parents, so that we can learn about what we are doing with our career tech education. And then lastly, I just want to encourage, since so many things are coming up in December, to take a look at our district calendar, because we have several events that will be happening with the arts as well as within STEAM. Thank you.
Dr. Kistler, how many parents came to the to help with the ESL?
DLAP meeting, parents, I would have to double check the agenda. We did not have a full quorum to be able to vote, but we were able to inform. So I believe we have 4 students, but I'll look at that.
Thank you. Personnel services?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Are there comments from any of the bargaining units? No comments. Okay. Student board member comments.
All right, so the clubs on campus clubs of TCHS are having their Fun Food Friday this Friday. Red Cross hosted a blood drive today from 9 to 3 p.m. With about 40 to 50 participants. This past weekend, Model UN Club went to UCLA for their Model UN conference. And other than those events mentioned previously from the ASB conference, we're good for tonight.
Moving on to our board member comments. Mr. Gould.
Yeah, just short stuff I wanted to, got proud I am of the ASB, you know, all the work that they're doing and stuff, and enthusiasm for the kids, SU and stuff. It's just very exciting. I'm also very proud of the waterfall team. Accomplishments in the place.
Mr. Nolan.
Yes. Just, I'd like to thank again the group that came from the high school to tell us what direction they were going, and very pleased with the direction they're going. I went to the Temple City High School presentation, which was in October, really, of the repertoire company, part of our continuing efforts for, I guess, development of people, and it was very good. And I also went to the Veterans Day ceremony, which the city put on last Saturday, I think it was. They had a flyover, very moving. The turnout was pretty good, and it was a nice event saluting the veterans in Temple City and across the nation. Let's see, we had a Temple City School Foundation meeting, and I gave a quick summary because I went to a grant writing workshop that the Tournament of Roses held, and basically it was a handout that they gave, and they went through it verbally, step by step of the things. Hopefully some of the items that the Pasadena tournament does will be part of our school foundations, like a limit on how much money we're going to give on any one grant, maybe some other general things, to be able to formalize the things. The Temple City School Foundation also gave away, I think, 57 grants under $500 this last go-around, and that's the end of the go-arounds. In January, they're going to have 11 participants who want more than $500. They don't say what the upper limit is. they're gonna give verbal presentations to the schools, Temple City School Foundation Board in this room, in January, for more grant money, for the big grant money now. And, let's see, I also went to the different codes of the future. Each school had a little bit of different way of presenting it. Some of them had scripts and some of them didn't, or they used the scripts as outlines. But I managed to get to Emperor, Cloverly, and La Rosa. I missed a couple of schools, and I found that very enjoyable. I think most of the teachers seem to be very comfortable with doing the code of the future, and so do the students. Let's see, and that is about it. Thank you.
Mr. Bell?
Good evening, everyone. And again, I want to echo the comments of my fellow board members. It's always a pleasure to have the high school's ASB staff here that enlighten us in all things, including this thing that I didn't know until a member can explain it for me. Fortunately, I wasn't able to make very many events due to my work obligations these past 3 weeks or so, but really excited for all of our fall sports, both our water polo and our football programs. Outstanding job, and the coaches and the staff and the kids are to be commended for that. Seeing that progress at the elementary level in integration with technology and understanding it, it's very near and endearing to me, as most of you know. So I look forward to hopefully being able to attend one of those events in the near future. Thank you.
Mr. Palmer?
Okay, I was able to make one of the epic builds, which I enjoyed a lot, and I hope to get to the other schools also to be able to see the good things happening there. I think I got a good sample of what our 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students are doing, and I appreciate the time that staff and teachers are putting into that. There's a lot of things that elementary school teachers have to teach, and then we're asking them to do additional things, and I appreciate their flexibility. And I appreciated the ASB meeting, and if you weren't here earlier, then you missed a great presentation from our ASB leaders at Temple City High School regarding the programs they're putting on this year and ways that they're trying to engage with all the students. And when I say all, I mean really all, and they're to be commended for that. Lastly, I finished recently the Masters in Governance program through the California School Boards Association. I finally learned that in that name, boards is plural. It's not California School Board Association, it's boards. So, and it's not possessive either, plural. So those are the kinds of things you learn. But it was, I finally got the last day completed, and I know my colleagues, some of you have finished the series, some of you have started it. I encourage all of you to continue to pursue it, because it just helps us give a perspective from the outside about ways that we can continue to work better together. There's always ways that we can work better together. Thank you.
Okay. Well, congratulations to all the fall sports teams for successful seasons. And a big congratulations to all the staff at the grade schools, Emperor and Cloverly, La Rosa, the schools I got to go to for the epic builds. And what I must say, it was so cool to see the kids having so much fun and the imagination that they were demonstrating. But kindergartners, they're at La Rosa, to see them actually coding a game and somewhat understanding what they're doing and having some lingo there to throw out. It was like, whoa. I didn't get to learn this stuff until, first year of college, last year of high school. That's when we first got our Commodore 64 at the high school. So yeah, it's really amazing that the kids have this opportunity at kindergarten to actually create a game and program. And so big thanks to district administration for providing that, and the staff and administrators at the grade schools for taking the time, to do this for the kids. It's not easy, I know that. It's hard enough being a teacher, I know that. I'm not one, but I can play one on TV, but I see what you do, and it's just amazing, you know, how you run these classrooms, and then to do the Code the Future or whatever on top of that, it's very commendable, so I'm very appreciative of what you do for this moving it forward. Let's see. Mr. Nolenberg and I and Ms. Perini and Ms. Terrell attended our city school district standing committee meeting, and where we met with Councilmember Fish and the city manager Brian Cook, and they were discussing needs from us when they finish their library project across the street. They want to possibly utilize part of our parking lot here. So we as a district need to kind of discuss how that might work, how we can benefit them and make sure that we're taken care of too. So that will be discussions going on for a while. I think the construction starts in 18, end of 18, something like that. So we have some time, but those are things that are going on. That's what we discussed at that meeting. And second to last, I hope that everyone has a safe and joyful Thanksgiving. Some people are traveling. For those of you who are, have safe travels. For those who are not, safe travels to wherever you're going home. And thank you, Mr. Gould, for his service as being a Navy vet. Appreciate what you've done for all of us. And that's it. Thank you. Ms. Perini?
Thank you, President Morrison. Today, Dr. Lashier and Aaron Chang and I and Diana Alvarez from Longden attended the Every Student Succeeding ceremony at Kellogg West on the campus of Cal Poly Pomona, where our student, Federico Hernandez, was honored by Region 15 of the Association of California School Administrators. And the event, as each region, each charter recommends a student who has become, was nominated for overcoming, in most cases, insurmountable obstacles. And so Federico lost his vision to cancer. He's in our visually impaired program, and then in addition to that, the cancer returned and affected his bones, so he missed last school year and had to go through extensive surgeries to rebuild some of the fragments, bone fragments around his knee area. Positive, fun, when you have a chance to get to know him. He's a wonderful young man, and so he received the entire region award. And now we'll move on to the state level. So it was a great emotional afternoon to hear students stand there and have their stories read of hope and perseverance, everything from horrible abuse to drug addiction to homelessness to our own Federico's compelling story. So that was a great afternoon, and we were all surprised. We thought Aaron was holding out information on us, but he said he honestly did not know that Federico would be nominated to go to the state level for his perseverance and his sense of hope. So that was great. And then the other bit of information I'd like to share with you is, as you know, we don't have a queen this year for the Tournament of Roses, but we do have Bert Ferntile taking our pep band. They were just invited this week to the VIP tailgate, which is the large party before the Rose Bowl game, and then they'll also be entertaining the next day, or the prior day, for the parents' reception for all the players' families that are coming in from wherever the teams will be located from. So Bert's excited, we're excited that Temple City will be recognized again, and it's a wonderful opportunity for our students. So that's it. Thank you, President Larson.
Okay, I have no written communications. Okay. All right, we'll move on to our discussion information items portion of the agenda. These are items the board would like to discuss or information presented to the board. These items do not require board action. First will be our California School Dashboard Global Indicators presentation.
energy here. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Pleased to be here with you again. I'm sure all of you recall last spring when I came to you to discuss the California School Dashboard, which had made its big debut. And I talked to you about various indicators for which the state is collecting data, academic indicators, graduation rates, suspension rates, English learner progress, things of that nature. Tonight, I'm going to focus on some of the indicators for which we as a district collect data and report out on the dashboard. So it's a much more kind of localized view of some of these issues. So to begin, local indicators are another means that we use to address our LCFF priorities. As I mentioned, we measure and we report on progress in 4 specific areas. And we use a variety of data that we collect in various ways. Surveys, internal audits, inspections, self-reflection tools, as well as some of the data warehousing systems we're using, like our ARIES student information system, to collect that information to make sure that our reports are as accurate and as timely as they can be. So an important note before I get going here is that these priorities are focused on implementation rather than measuring summative outcomes. And what that means is that we are being held accountable for collecting and reporting on these indicators, not for what the data says, per se. And I'll go into a little bit more of what that means, but it's an important to keep in mind. That being said, we are continually collecting information, reflecting on it, and using that to influence the best decisions we can make in our department to make the best decisions for students. So even though the state isn't holding us accountable directly for what that data says, we certainly are paying attention to it. Local indicators apply only to school districts, county offices of education, and charter schools, so that leaves out our individual school sites. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the standards that the state has set for each of the priorities that I'll go into. As I mentioned, there are 4 priorities and indicators that we'll report on. Each one of them has an individual standard. So I'm going to show you an example. I've chosen to talk about the parent engagement standard. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about what these standards have in common, because it's complicated and I don't know that it would be super productive to go into detail on all of them. So this is the parent engagement priority 3. And it says that we will annually measure progress in seeking input from parents in decision making and promoting parental participation in programs. That we will report the results of that measurement in a regularly scheduled meeting of the governing board, and that we will make it public through the evaluation rubrics. And so what that means is, and this is something that all 4 of the priorities have in common, is that we will annually measure progress in the area of that particular standard, that we will report the results at a regularly scheduled board meeting, as I'm doing now, and that we will upload that information to the California School Dashboard by the deadline each year. All right, so one more thing, and then I'll actually start sharing information on these priorities. Each priority gets a rating or a score. There are 3 of them: met, not met, and not met for 2 or more years. And again, by reporting standard met for an indicator, we're declaring that we've collected the information and that we've reported it out. Okay? And again, we can cite any data available to us, any internal actions that we've taken, any other information that's available to us in order to report on that indicator. And this year's deadline is December 1st. So I will be, following the meeting tonight, when I have the green light, I will be uploading our information to the California School Dashboard. So let's talk first about Priority 1. Priority 1 focuses on information from our Williams case settlement requirements, the school accountability report card, and our facility inspection tool, or FIT report. And there are 3 areas that we look at on this indicator. The first is vacant positions and misassignments of teachers, for which we have none currently. So we get a 0 there. We look at students without copies of standards-aligned instructional materials. We also have none currently. There are no students without standards-aligned instructional materials. The last one is a little bit more complicated. It's instances where facilities do not meet the good repair standard. So to explain to you why there are 127 of those, I'm going to invite Ms. Sorrell to join me and answer, give you a little more information and answer any questions that you might have about that.
Good evening. So just to give you a little bit of background, the FIT report, the facility inspection tool, is not a new tool. The dashboard is something new from the state. This is a long-standing report. We do it each year, late April to early May, and then give it to the state. Now it's part of the dashboard. So what happens with that report is you go to each site, you go to every room, custodial closet, telephone closet, every single space, and there are about 12 things that you look at. They can be from electrical, carpet, paint. I can go through all of them with you if you'd like. So what we did is we do that in May, as I mentioned. There were 127 items that we have that are not in good repair. Then what we do is we create a work order for every single one of those items, and we address them. At this point, of those 127, there are 37 that remain open. They're primarily carpet and oak. And as you'll recall, we're waiting to hear, excuse me, back from the state about bond money, and then we'll be looking at projects at oak, and that time we'll take care of, carpet at that site. That's our major issue.